What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 13. My name is Victor Vasquez. Thank you so much for coming back and listening. I have another special guest on the podcast, and it's the return already, her second appearance. It is Liz Rios.
It's me.
Liz Rios, thank you. I don't know why I said your first and your last name, but Liz, thanks so much for coming on again. I'm excited to have you because on today's podcast, we're going to be talking about the newest Marvel movie, and that is The Eternals. And Liz is doing that because we had so many actors in the film that were from Game of Thrones. I think there was only two of them.
Only two.
But there's also the name drop of Cersei multiple times. That was one of the Eternals' names.
Yes.
But again, thank you so much, everybody, for coming back and listening. Me and Liz just want to give really our thoughts about the movie. Like we normally do, we talk about why we wanted to watch it. We'll go over, again, very high level, what we thought about it. Then we actually go into detail about what our favorite scene was, who our favorite actor was, and then finally, do we recommend this movie, and is it timeless for us? Mm-hmm. Again, it's all just our personal opinions, but we just like to have this kind of discussion. And again, most importantly of all, we really want to hear from you guys. So definitely go ahead and post any of your thoughts about Eternals down below in the comments. All right, great. Well, I think this would be a good way to kind of segue into our first segment, which is basically why we wanted to watch this movie. I've said it millions of times. Liz already knows this.
Yes.
I'm a big Marvel fan. Whether it's a project for TV, whether it's a film, I'm definitely just down to watch any Marvel thing that's going to be showing. I've never heard of the Eternals, so my reaction was very similar to Shang-Chi. I never knew anything about these specific characters and the story. And again, that kind of interests me a little bit more. And I think it's because of how good Shang-Chi was. I didn't know anything about that character.
Shang-Chi.
And to me, I don't know if you feel this way, Liz, but for me, Shang-Chi's still my favorite movie of the year.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, so like again, I felt like that was probably going to help my interest a little bit higher for Eternals because I had no clue about these. Liz, I think you're probably going to agree with me. I think what intrigued me the most, though, about this movie is the cast.
Yes.
You have Angelina Jolie.
Yes.
Richard Madden. Salma Hayek. Gemma Chan. Don Lee. I'm going to mess up his name. Kumail Nanjiani. You had so many different... I didn't even mention Kit Harington as well.
That's right, Kit Harington.
So there's so many people. And so I feel like when there's this big ensemble cast, I get even more excited because, again, maybe some of these characters can play off of each other even more. I guess before we even go down further, was there any specific actor that you were excited for when you saw the trailers and you heard about this movie?
For sure, Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie.
Nice.
Big fans of them. Mexican American over here. So to see Salma on the big screen was really nice.
Yeah.
And then just always a big fan of Angelina Jolie from Tomb Raider. And not really thinking about the drama in her real life. But overall, as an actress, she's awesome.
Definitely. And so then we ended up watching the trailers for it, and it showed off a very different type of vibe than other Marvel movies. One of them is that it seemed more cosmic, so more space related like that. You see these things called celestials that are almost like cosmic beings that play a big part in the universe. Marvel doing a good job of interjecting so many different types of elements to these movies. It just gets us even more excited. So those were, again, some of the reasons that I had. Liz, you interjected some. Is there any other reasons that you got excited for this movie?
Well, the trailer itself was pretty awesome. I was just looking up the song that they used because I really like classic songs. And the fact that they did like a cover of it and how they used it in the trailer. It just made it look so good and so interesting.
Yeah. Nice.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, those were our thoughts, guys. Now we actually want to just jump into what we thought overall of the movie. Again, we might throw out a little bit of spoilers. So if you have not seen Eternals, I would just recommend just skip ahead a few minutes because we are going to kind of detail a little bit of that specific movie as well. So just to kind of give you a general thought, and Liz, I want to hear your perspective as well. My perspective and what the theme of the movie is, what I understood about it. Now, I am in no way an expert in movies. You know that.
Neither am I.
Everybody knows that listens in. To me, I thought that the theme was about love. Love for a friend, love for a partner, and really love for humanity.
Yes.
The Eternals were sent to this earth to protect us in some specific way. Even though that we find out that the mission is not really what it seems. But that's kind of what I got out of the film overall.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So, like, there was just elements of, like, you know, either you had Eternals that loved each other, you had different types of scenes that just showed their
support
emotions.
with each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
you could see that there was a big connection, especially like when, between Angelina Jolie and the other cast members as well. Again, just overall, that's kind of what I pulled out of the movie specifically. But just to kind of give you a good broad sense of the actual synopsis of the movie, I guess, if you could say that, is that these Eternals were sent by a specific celestial. They were sent actually to interact with humanity at around, I think, 5,000 BC. And so they've been here basically since we were probably cavemen, all the way up to this point of where Thanos erased half of the population. And so what I really actually appreciated, and one of my favorite aspects, and I'll probably ask you as well, is where the director, Chloe Zhao, not only did she do a good job of introducing the Eternals, but she also did a really good job of showing at what points in different periods of humanity that they were able to interact. Like you see them, like, again, when we were cavemen, then we see like the times of like Babylon, and then we see like a time of like where Aztecs were a part of like our history. And so that was, again, one of my favorite aspects about the film, is that it just kind of jumped out into different types of time periods, and it showed you again what the Eternals' impact was going through those various stages. And then again, it also shows the conflict that they go through, knowing that in their mission, they're actually not meant to intervene. They're really just there to kind of push us in the right direction. But they were actually told by this celestial that they are not allowed to interfere in wars and any specific types of conflicts or disasters. And then we see that the Eternals battle that kind of, like either decision of like, should I go in? Should I not? All these different types of stuff. As we go kind of along, the film ends up kind of introducing us to each one of the Eternals. They all have these different powers. I guess, Liz, from your perspective, who was one of the specific Eternals that you enjoyed more out of, using their powers?
I'm a big fan of Angelina Jolie, and I really loved her character. Her character was Athena. She's the goddess of war. So it was really cool to see her be a badass again and just fighting deviants? Is that what they were called? The deviants? Yes. Yeah, and I loved her. I loved everyone's suits, but I really enjoyed Athena's powers because she just kind of constructs her weapons, and like it just looked really cool.
So she basically has like the energy to like construct swords, shields. Yes. You also have like you had basically the Superman character in Icarus, who was played by Richard Madden. He had the laser beams out of his eyes. He could fly. Every character had something unique about them. And I thought visually they made it look super cool like that.
Yeah.
The way that Richard Madden was able to, it looked like he was actually flying. The laser beams were able to blast out. You had a character named Makari, who basically was like the Flash. She could run as fast as anybody else in the world, go throughout any specific places, and they made that visually look really cool throughout the movie. But again, that's really what I thought about the film. About, again, it's a conflict in regards to what you should be doing when it comes to your specific mission, and how love can really interfere in those specific plans. Overall, I enjoyed myself in when I was watching the movie. I had a good time. If there was one nitpick that I had for me, and Liz, I want to hear your perspective on this. I wish there was more music. I feel like when we went through it, I couldn't really hear the themes that were going on in the film as compared to, and I'll give you an example, Shang-Chi. I always remember the scene where he's falling from the sky. Spoiler alert. He's falling from the sky before he's going to do his final move, his death blow. And I could hear the theme. And probably did a terrible interpretation of that. But what do you think? Did you hear the music more than I did? I didn't hear anything.
I couldn't really hear much, and that's true. A lot of movies can be picked apart based on like their score and their superhero theme, or just any music throughout the movie. Like that always leaves a good impression, especially for me. If I watch a good movie, the music always leaves a good impression to the point where I am still listening to that soundtrack after I've seen it. So that's how it was with Shang-Chi and with not so much Black Widow, but with any other movie. But yeah, with this movie, I didn't hear much at all.
Liz, apart from the specific music, I know I went over my thoughts about like kind of overall the theme of it. What do you think about the theme? Like, did you kind of feel that love thing, or am I off on that? Or?
Oh yeah, no. For sure, it was focused on that. Like, for instance, like they showed the first sex scene on there.
Yeah.
They showed the first gay man kiss on here, and even love between friendship or even like assistance. So later on, there's a specific character that I really enjoyed that was Kumail Nanjianji's character, Kingo's assistant. So even just the the relationship between them two was really nice to see. And yeah, it was about love, friendship, and support.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, again, my overall thoughts, I enjoyed the film. I thought it was really good. To me, Liz, I thought it was very different from other Marvel movies.
Yeah, it was.
So that's what I thought of it. Again, one nitpick, I wish the music was a little bit better, maybe a little bit louder. Just so I can hear it. Just so I can hear a good theme of it as well.
So Vic is being really nice about this movie. I did find myself kind of like waiting for more stuff to happen because it is different. Again, I enjoyed all the actors. They did everything went great. My biggest issue was the fact that they kind of focused on a lot of these characters. They just had a lot of close-ups on a lot of these characters longer than they should be. So, for instance, for me, there's been a couple times where I literally we're watching and they're like closing in on Gemma Chan. So they're focusing close up on her and she's beautiful. Of course she is. But it was like a minute close up and we're just seeing her kind of no dialogue, just seeing her facial expression, processing a specific decision, even though I already knew the decision like 5 seconds in, but they didn't have to extend that for a minute. Yeah. So things like just that. It's pretty much a lot of these close-ups on these characters took longer than they should be. So I found myself like waving my hand, like hurry up, get to the next thing. I know what the next thing is.
Well, I felt too that, and we've only seen it one time, just to let the audience know. We only saw the movie one time. Mm-hmm. It might be different the second time we watch it, but I felt like there was a little bit more dialogue. There was a little bit more talking than other Marvel movies.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, I'm not saying that there wasn't any action, because there was a good, like a good strike of both, and it was a good balance. But I did feel like there was a lot more scenes that included a lot of dialogue, where, like Liz was mentioning, they focus in on one character and their reaction to what somebody had just said, and then they're processing, and then a lot of these smoldering looks where they're just staring off into the distance, and so definitely a different vibe that I got.
I mean, sure, like keep it in the movie, but it doesn't have to be that long. Yeah, that's the only thing. Overall, like I thought it was great. Yeah. It just really ticked me off when like I'm staring at Gemma Chan for like a minute when it's like, all right, do the thing.
Yeah, definitely awesome. Well, those are our thoughts. Again, guys, these are our opinions. Definitely let us know what your thoughts are after you guys get a chance to go see the film as well. Now, me and Liz are gonna go into our next segment, which is basically going over our favorite character, our favorite person of the film. Liz, I'll go ahead and start off first. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give my props to Kingo, which is played by, again, Kumail Nanjiani. Mm-hmm. He was the funniest character.
Comedy relief, yes.
There was times where he was saying dialogue, and he wasn't even on screen. And it was just like dialogue.
You just hear his voice.
You just hear his voice, and he's just saying something ridiculous. Like one of the Eternals, I think his name was Druig, was talking to him, and it's like, I heard you're a big movie star. And then the first thing that Kumail Nanjiani's character says is, I've also directed some things too like that. And it's just like all these different one-liners that he was saying was awesome. I really enjoyed him. Basically, what his character was he's basically a dynasty of Bollywood movie stars in the film. And people think that he's a part of a dynasty of his grandfather being a movie star, his father. But in reality, it's him all the time because these Eternals, they don't age. Yeah. And so he's basically just changing up his facial characteristics and it's just hilarious. He's definitely the one guy that stood out to me of the entire cast. Liz, did you have anybody different?
Yes, I did. Yep. But just again, everyone was really great. I loved everyone and how they played each of their characters. I wish I saw a little bit more of a specific character, but I cannot say because it would spoil what would happen in the movie. Yep. But I have a feeling we might see this person later on in future movies. Yep. But the one person that really stood out to me and that actually brought some sort of emotion out of me during the movie was Karun. Is played by Harish Patel, and he's actually assistant of Kingo in the movie. And he was like the second comedy relief. Like him and Kingo, they're so funny together. Yeah. But there was a specific scene like later on in the movie that just it made me tear up because like he had a really beautiful speech, very very short and very sweet. But it was beautiful and it practically almost made me cry.
And I think what made it better is that because he was like the only human with other Eternals like that, and so he was basically playing from like our perspective like that. And so It was awesome.
He actually reminded me of do you remember Suicide Squad, the second by what's his name?
Milton? You already forgot his name?
Is it Milton? Milton. I kept thinking his name was Paul or something.
No.
But yeah, he reminded me of the character named Milton in the movie where he just went along everyone's plan. Regular human being doing the best he can. And Karun was practically the same person, just a little more of a more connect with this character for sure.
That's actually a good connection.
More connection,
Suicide Squad. Awesome. Well, those are ours, guys. Next, we want to jump into what our favorite moment or scene of the film was. Obviously, there's a lot of different ones to kind of call out. I'll make mine very quick, Liz. Again, I feel like I always pinpoint the action scenes. I feel like those are always the things that really I gravitate towards. So my favorite scene was when, spoiler alert again for anybody that has not seen the movie. I'm just going to spoil one part of it.
Do you have to spoil it?
I mean, it is one of my favorite scenes, and I at least want to go through it and show. But it doesn't spoil a big part of it.
But you don't want to, save it and, guys, go check it out.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, Liz convinced me. I won't go through my favorite scene of that specific one. I would just say then, I guess one of my other favorite scenes was again going through the specific time periods. I kind of teased it a little bit, but again, they go through the different time periods of humanity, and then they again see, just to kind of throw out another one, they go through the time period of when they drop the atomic bomb, and then you see one of the Eternals, Faustus, completely just give up on humanity because he doesn't understand how from his own technology they could create something that could wipe out humanity. From the face of the earth. So
I appreciate that as well, because each century that we would take it into, that was always some sort of breaking point or some sort of
conflict, really.
Yeah, conflict for a specific character, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was not fun to watch, but it was a good touch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Liz, did you have any other favorite scene that you can call out that again doesn't spoil it?
Karun's speech, not very emotional, but for me at the moment, with everything that was kind of revealing itself, that was a very beautiful moment.
I would say just look out for the fight scenes, guys. The visuals on those fight scenes are amazing.
They're actually really good. Yeah, the visual effects.
I think they showed really good examples of what each of their abilities are, and they made them so different from each other like that. So I thought it was so awesome as well. All right, awesome, guys. Well, those again were our favorite scenes or moments, even though Liz didn't let me spoil one of the specific scenes.
No, you can't spoil it, because that was actually a really good part of the movie, because I didn't expect that.
Yeah,
so
me too.
If you guys really want to know, go watch it.
Exactly. Which actually I think this perfect jump to the next segment, Liz, that you just did is, would we recommend it for you guys to go watch it? If you haven't seen it, will be our recommendation. Should you go watch it in theaters? Should they maybe wait for it during streaming? Should they avoid it at all costs? I'll go ahead and start off with it. Again, big Marvel fan here. I definitely recommend this movie. And I recommend watching it in theaters because, again, the visuals of each of their abilities are just... It makes much more sense to watch it on a big screen.
Yeah.
Rather than waiting for it on Disney Plus or something like that. Even though I did mention that there is a lot of dialogue, the action still makes up for it because there's just so much things going on in that specific film. I would definitely recommend the movie. Now, I do want to offer the one pinpoint in that it is very different from other Marvel movies. It's not like your typical, the same kind of idea of Shang-Chi or Black Widow. Yeah. It definitely plays... It's a different vibe.
A different flow, different vibe. Yeah. And so I do agree that you should watch the movie in theaters just to see it visually on a big screen. Surround sound. Yep. It's cool. But I wouldn't hate you if you want to wait and watch it at home. For me, my opinion, I would have waited to watch it at home.
Yeah, that makes sense. Again, to each their own. It totally makes sense. Yeah. Another reason I would also, for people that are kind of iffy about it, if they wanted to go watch it in theaters, I mean, if you're a big Game of Thrones fan, you have Kit Harington. You have Richard Madden. You have two of the most good-looking men that are actors right now at the moment.
Yeah.
Both of them.
And that reminds me of the credit scenes afterwards. Yeah. So, obviously this movie kind of shows you, what's to come later on.
Exactly.
With these characters.
Yeah. What another big part of why some people might want to go watch this movie or wait to see it in streaming is again the big cast. If you're a fan of again Game of Thrones, if you've been a big time fan of Angelina Jolie, she has a a big part in this movie as well. Kumail Nanjiani, again, if you're a fan of him,
man, that guy was funny.
There's just so many people that you can you see them their name on the specific cast listing, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna check this movie out. So that's why I would recommend it, and it's overall a good story for me.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we've come to the last segment, which again is going to be the tough decision that me and Liz are going to have to make. Nobody else is making these tough decisions. And that is Eternals timeless?
No.
Wow, that was quick. You want
For my first instinct is not really.
Okay.
Not really.
Nice. Does it I guess did the cast not do something, or did the story just not really feel like something that you would rewatch on TV?
Okay, so this is personal experience because after Infinity War, after Endgame, I was kind of already all right, I'm set with Marvel. I'm done. I don't need anything else. So all these movies coming out after, they're just it's just a treat for me.
Yeah.
So.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It's a treat. Everything's like a cherry on top.
A cherry on top at this point. Because now they're just kind of taking whatever superhero, any comic superhero out on the big screen.
Yeah, that's your opinion, Liz. That's fine. I totally agree. My bias is going to kick in. I already watch all the Marvel movies. Liz watches it sometimes with me.
I watch them with him, yes.
And so that to me already gives me the incentive that I'm going to be able to rewatch this movie over and over again.
Yeah.
But on its own merits, if we were just thinking on its own.
I get it, yes.
I'm a little on the fence. Maybe towards a no. I think I would need to watch it again. And again, that's just my mind. Sometimes I just forget after one viewing, you forget some of the scenes, some of the awesome moments that happen. And so I already have this feeling I want to go watch it again. One of the things that would have pushed me towards a definite yes, and I sound like a broken record, but it was the music, the score. If the score was something that was memorable, like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. So it was hard to connect with this movie without the music, without the intensity of things.
Exactly.
I do, now that I'm really thinking about it. But it was so weird because I felt more emotion in a 30-second speech by one character compared to this whole cast and this whole story.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's really what we thought. Liz is on the basically saying no, not really considered timeless. I consider it a timeless movie because, again, I think it's so different and it encompasses so much about the universe of Marvel that I really enjoyed it. But again, those are just our opinions. This movie, I think, on Rotten Tomatoes is almost at a 50 or 60%.
Yeah, and that
it's
was a
divided.
thing. Yeah,
so
that was the crappy part about it too, because I kept getting spoiled on Instagram how it's the lowest reviewed. So I just tried to come in with an open mind. As I watched it, it was great and all, but at the same time, it didn't wow me the way I was hoping.
Like Shang-Chi did, that.
Like Shang-Chi. Yeah, because it's such a great cast, a lot of great people. Visually, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And yes, it was different. So I just try to keep an open mind about it. But it was hard to get some sort of emotional reaction from the story.
That's granted, yeah. No, I'm not going to say that this is my favorite Marvel movie of all time. Yeah. I'm not going to say that either. I still think out of 2021, the best Marvel movie has been Shang-Chi. That one has been it was so much fun watching that movie that we watched it already 2 or 3 times. 2 or 3
times.
And so, yeah, again.
And we still listen to the soundtrack.
And we still, exactly. Guys, those are our thoughts, though, about Eternals. What are you guys thinking about the movie? Have you gone out to go see it? Are you going to wait? What are your thoughts? Again, post those down below in the comments. Would love to interact with you as well. All right, guys. Thank you so much again for coming back and listening. Liz, thank you so much again for joining me.
Thank you so much for inviting.
This has been Victor Vasquez and Liz Rios on episode number 13 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, guys. And there's going to be a new episode next week as well. And we're going to be covering Last Night in Soho.
Oh, yes.
So that's going to be good. All right, guys. Well, have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk later.
Bye.